Right, that's that done. So I shall get started. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 4 of my Instagram live interviews. I did not think I'd still be doing them now. So tonight I'll be going live with an expert genealogist at MyHeritage, Daniel Horowitz, and I will invite. Hey!
Hello, Daniel.
Hello, Daniel. This will be we'll be saying hello, Daniel, quite a bit, maybe. How are you?
I'm very good. I'm very excited because this is actually the first Instagram interview that I ever do.
And hopefully, it won't be the last, though. I'm sure many
I
people
hope
want.
not.
So anyway, I figured we might start with introducing yourself.
Okay. So I should do it.
Well, you can judge whether I did a great one or not. I don't know.
I have no problem. So hello, everybody. I'm Daniel Horowitz. Today, I work for MyHeritage as the genealogy expert, but I'm actually dedicated to genealogy since a long time ago. And I'm very happy to be here with you, Daniel, because you also started quite early, and we're not that many out there, genealogists that like to start that early in our lives.
Right, and that is a good point. So, obviously, like you just said, you got into genealogy when you were when you were quite young. Like, what made you start?
Well, I think that the first trigger was the family history project that we had at school. We received a few questions that we had to ask our relative, and I learned a lot about my family, asking my grandparents about their lives, and I had the opportunity and the luck to be able to ask them and inquire about how they were lived in Europe. I was born in Venezuela, so we were all back in Venezuela. And since then, especially my maternal grandmother, she was always telling us stories about her life in Romania, what she did when she was a child, when she had our age. And I was always fascinated with all those stories and the names and the individuals, the family members that I never met. And every time I ask again and again to hear the stories, and I started probably and funny enough, probably for today's people starting genealogy, I started with a pen and pencil. Okay. And people may think today, well, you know, with all these computers and all this technology, I'm going to start in a computer. No, everybody, no matter when, you start your genealogy with a pen and pencil, even if it's a napkin in a restaurant or something, that you start scribbling your names, and you try to connect your relatives and understand how they are related. That's also the way I started until today.
Yeah, and like you said, write it on paper. Like when I started back early January 2017, my mother had a book probably about that. I think I actually have it. Um, I have it somewhere and I can't find it. That's annoying. But it was like a book probably about that big, and she was asking my nana, my paternal grandmother, just kind of asking about what she remembered about the family, and kind of it came from so like someone who would have known people before me. So that would have that helped me a lot. So like, that was kind of building the foundations of what I had. And so like as more records became available, I then validated them to so like make sure that all the details were correct. And I'd
Mhm.
say that of 10 they were.
Yeah, and it's also very important to try to find exactly that, something that somebody have done, and try to go from that both ways. As you just said, first corroborating that the information that appears over there is true and it have a sources, but then building on top of that, so you can keep researching and keep finding other details.
Yes, definitely. And I'm just reading the comments here, and someone made a good point saying, I think there are lots of genealogists out there who started at a young age. That is definitely true.
Yeah,
But
it's not the majority, it's not the normal thing, but yes, today I think that even more today, kids are getting into this earlier. Schools have more projects, and even though today, actually today with what we're suffering, the pandemic and everything, I think that that also moved young people to research and to inquire and to have different communications with their ancestors and try to understand like what is different between today and their days.
definitely. And that is a very good point because now obviously the most kids, not all, but most kids will so like spend a good bit of time looking at a screen, whether it be on a phone or a mobile device or a computer, whatever it may be, and it's just kind of they're integrated into the internet, and it is definitely the fact that a good few sources, be it MyHeritage or any other companies, they so like have records online, which for kids nowadays would probably have appealed to greatly compared to if they were so like going like right, you have to do it on a pen and paper or I don't know, maybe go to an archive or something. Like like a good portion of the records are virtual online.
Yeah.
So I'd say definitely as times have gone on, kids and teens are probably more and more are starting to get into it.
Yeah, it's also easier, as you said, having everything on the internet and being able just to search and Google and finding so many things about those people in Google, just searching over there. It is also very encouraging for people. I wish I would had Google when we start all this, but it was fun. I'm not complaining, not complaining at all. I actually think that I learned a lot in every field of life doing genealogy.
Mm, definitely. And so obviously, like you said, you're an expert genealogist at MyHeritage. Like, other than that, obviously, I'd imagine that would probably be your main project at the moment. But are there any other ones that you're currently pursuing at the moment?
Well, definitely, again, in these times, it takes most of my day.
Hmm.
Normally, I will be traveling and attending conferences and lectures. But now that everybody does Zoom and does webinars, so I'm more busy than usual giving lectures, but the reach is also broader because I can be at home in the morning lecturing for Australia, in the afternoon for Europe, and then at night to the United States. But yes, you know what they say, when you want something done, you give it to a person that is busy, and you will know that it will get done. I'm also volunteering my time for the Israel Genealogy Research Association, IGRA, and I am helping over there a little bit with the technology and with the database. My major was actually computer engineers, and that's one of the reasons why I entered my heritage. So I had the double qualification, both the genealogist and the high-tech person. So I'm there helping putting the databases together, making sure that the search engine works as it should, and doing some little things here and there. In fact, in 2 days, I will be going into an archive because archives here are also starting to open, but of course limited in the amount of people and who can go in. And most of the people from the society are not as young as me. And I love just to go out and do scanning and digitation. So I'm taking a day off from work to go to an archive and to do some digitization on some records that hopefully somebody would later transcribe and will make them available in the website.
Once a genealogist, always a genealogist. So,
listen, I have a deal with my wife. In the time that we traveled, even when we went for vacation, I had a deal with her. She allowed me one day to visit a cemetery. And it doesn't matter if I actually had relatives over there or were just there to photograph the tombstones with billion graves, which is also another thing that I love to do, but I got it. So I have cemeteries from all over the world, in Romania, in Ukraine, in England, Canada. Wherever I go, I try always to dedicate some time and to do a little bit of my part to the genealogy community. And again, one of the things I like, especially from the billion graves, is that the image that you take with your phone is geolocated. So you can actually see in the map where exactly is the tombstone. Now, the other thing is that every time that somebody searches and finds a burial in billion graves, you get kind of like, I don't want to say points, but a notification or a graph. And I actually can see when I go into the homepage how many people I have helped, either through taking the picture or transcribing. And you know what? This is actually what it's all about, to help people and to try to allow others have the same experience of finding their ancestors and make it easier for them.
definitely. And I know what you were saying about billion graves. I think when I've done transcribing, when I have had time, I have definitely seen a few photos of yours pop up. Like, you've clearly done a few that just kind of sort of like, I can tell it's you that sort of like did it, and I'm kind of thinking, oh, I know him. Right. So obviously, like when I started, and it's a question I've asked every time, and a few times it's popped up the same again. But just wanted to see your take on it. Is there anything that you now learnt that you wish you knew when you started out?
Well, I have to tell you, I actually have a full lecture that is titled, If I Knew Then What I Know Now. Okay? So yes, definitely. A zillion things that I would have done differently, hopefully better. I have learned a lot over all these years. And you know what? Let me give you a scoop. I'm actually giving that lecture in RootsTech. Okay, so if you have not registered, you or anybody hearing this interview, you definitely must register for RootsTech, which is the biggest genealogy conference in the world. And this year, it's free and it's virtual, of course. And I'm going to give that lecture over there. So you will learn a lot of those things that I learned during the process of becoming a genealogy. Now, things like probably today will sound very basic. Write your sources, okay? You have no idea how many times I find things in my research and I said, where this came from? Like, really? I have no idea. I have no recollection. Taking photos, taking images of everything, digitizing everything. You know, you always say, well, I will come back to that. No, you don't. You see it, you take it. That's what you have to do. Now, but the nice thing, I think, is that even today, I keep learning. Every time I see a webinar, every time I read a post, every time I see other people doing genealogy, you know, I learn about a source or a repository that I didn't know about it. I learned about a technique. I learned about something that maybe you did for your genealogy, and well, mine and yours probably are a little bit different, I would say, on our ancestors, but still the techniques and the actions are exactly the same. It can be applied for English, Scottish, Jewish, Black genealogy, Australian genealogy. No matter where you are, you can always learn from other people, and I keep learning from a lot of people, everybody. And yes, there is a lot of things I wish I knew back then.
Right. And saying about what you were saying about Roots Tech, like I think it was a case of when I heard about it, like when it was announced that it was, you know, announced that it was going to happen, I'd say within the first hour or two of it being announced, I registered. So
Good.
it'd probably be my second family history conference, a genealogy conference, whatever way you want to say it. I went to one last October, I think. It's and it's a little small one, but that was kind of like the first one that I had ever been to. And when you were kind of saying write your sources, because or no, when you were saying when you find a record, save it because you probably won't find it again. That was true, because it was only recently that I was helping someone just pull the record because she wasn't sure where to find it, and I was able to find what she was after, and it was I saved it to my computer, just making sure, just so happened if I couldn't find it afterwards, and I'm glad I did, because I couldn't remember what I searched to try and find it in the first
Yeah.
place. So that was definitely a good point. Now, like you said, you've been doing genealogy for an awfully long time, and your words,
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah. Don't call me old guy.
and obviously you would have dealt with different aspects of genealogy, so finding like old photos or records or newspaper articles. What would kind of have been your favorite aspect of it?
Hmm. I think being able to understand, or trying to understand how our ancestors lived without internet, without electricity, without all the things that we have today, trying to put myself on their shoes and try to go step by step over their life, which give me the clues on what to search. Like if I would like to learn more about the educational part, I will try to find the schools they attended and the universities they attended, and trying to imagine how was doing that in their times. I think that for me, that's the most fascinating aspect of the genealogy. I think that today actually we're a little bit spoiled. At least I am, because in my heritage, records comes to you, and photos come to you, and other things that other people they come to you, and also in ancestry and other places. Like the technology is helping you a lot to find the things, so you spend less time finding, and I personally I spend more time analyzing those things, and trying to understand and to visualize how our ancestors lived.
Yeah, definitely. And when you mentioned about so like saying schools or high schools or whatever, my grandmother was a teacher, and she taught like I think it was business and shorthand, and she and my mother, when my grandmother passed away, my mother inherited so like a bag which she used to bring to work. It was the same one, and inside it was kind of her certificate from college saying that she graduated, and CVs, and just kind of like not so much report cards, but kind of uh, like comments to like made about her written on paper, because I think it was to do with the CV. So like what past employers or past whatever had so
Okay,
like
kind of
thought her.
recommendation.
Yeah, that's it. Recommended, and it was so like nice reading about it, because she died nearly 10 years before I was born, so I never met her, and all
Yeah.
we have is pictures of her, and just kind of reading that, it was just kind of nice in the fact that I never met her, but judging by what other people had said about her, it kind of created an image of someone that would have been lovely to meet if I ever did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And there was my favorite part out of it, because like I said many other times, I'm a sucker for an old photo. It was the inside of it as well was like a photo of her at her graduation, so like in the typical attire,
Mm-hmm.
and holding her little scroll, and it was just a very nice photo, and I loved that one of her.
You see, that is something that this generation, like this year generation, and probably next year, they will not be able to have, because with the limiting of gathering, graduations are not being held physically in person anymore. So, yeah, I think that's a very nice memory.
Oh, definitely. I think Mum was just kind of digging through a lot of old stuff, and she came across the bag, and then she went like, "Oh, I meant to show you this." And obviously, when I started back a few years ago, a cousin got wind that I was kind of new little family historian, and she gave Mum a box of stuff relating to the same grandmother, her father, so like memorabilia of her, of my great grandfather, and so like there's so like little letters from him to my mom, and it was just, again, it's that those little bits that kind of make it
Yeah,
for me.
yeah, definitely. That's the treasure trove that we get.
Definitely. Now, again, okay, I'm going to move on to my next one. So if you want to share it, that's fine. If you don't, no problem. But what's an interesting story or event that you've discovered about your ancestors?
Well, a lot. Like all the story of the immigration after World War II, for each of the ancestors is definitely beautiful and very interesting story. But I'm going to tell you one of the probably most interesting ones, if I had to pick one, and I'm not going to mention names, of course. It's a brother of my grandfather that, together with another brother, like two brothers, they were actually forging, falsificating documents and money to be able to smuggle people out of Europe and being able to save them. The story gets a little bit better when they manage to smuggle their own parents without the parents knowing that they were smuggled by the two sons, or thanks to the two sons that were arranging and forging all this paperwork. So I think, like any kid, and this is also my recommendation to everybody who will want kids to get involved in this, whenever you have a black sheep in the family, whenever you have a mysterious thing, whenever you have an illegal thing in the family, that is what is going to pique the curiosity of the kids. And for many years, I knew rumors about this, and I always tried to interview this grand uncle, which I met and I spoke with him. And for many years, he just jumped. He totally blank, like the 5 years of the war, and he didn't want to answer any of my questions, like literally next, until probably time that we were sitting together, and he decided, he said, okay, you know what, it's time for you to know, and for everybody to know the story, but just don't make that public. Of course, that he is not living anymore, unfortunately, and I still think that keeping his names private is in their honor. But I think that many people out there did quite remarkable things, and are still doing remarkable things to help others. And that is one of the things that I always loved about this part of the family and this story. I think that is quite important. It left me a message that you need to do whatever you do in order to help other people, and even more if it's your family.
Definitely. Colin just came in. Were they also in the resistance?
Well, it seems that they were kind of, it was called partisans, but I think that, yes, friends border, fake names, yeah, I think, I think they were, like, not fighting, not in the army, but in the undergrounds.
Right. And now going back to the fact that you were kind of saying you've done genealogy for a while, and you have, so you would have dealt with lots of different sources from just either researching your own or researching others. But what type of record do you personally like most, and why?
I think that my preferred, although I don't have that many, it's kind of a collection. It starts with immigration records, and then they move to naturalization records. And the reason is actually very easy. When people moved from one place to the other, when they wanted to emigrate and to be nationalized into the country that they were arriving, they have to tell the story. They have to be very detailed about themselves, about their family. There is a lot of information that you can get from those type of records. More than that, you have to have some witnesses. And sometimes you can also learn about the connections that your family members had in that new country. So I learned, for example, that part of my family arrived to New York, and suddenly they were connected with other people from the family that already had a business over there, and immediately they help one to each other, and they become part of the business, and they were working together, and they reflected also who was left behind, and I could find an immigration record of those people that were brought to New York, to the States, 2 or 3 years afterwards. So that gives me the hint that they just went to try luck, and it was good for them. They were happy. They were making a living, and they could bring their family with them, and just they kept prospering in the country. So I think that immigration and naturalization records, it's a wealth of information. You need to read it very carefully. You need to also understand the historic context, like when that happened, why that happened, how it happened, and you will get a lot of information about your family analyzing those records.
Definitely. And when you were kind of saying naturalization record, that was a record that I somehow forgot about. But it was definitely amazing to see because my grandaunt, she immigrated to America, and we didn't know much about her, and we were told that when she lived and passed away in Chicago, but she never went near Chicago. She was in New York, and
Okay.
I don't know where Chicago came in, but she and I was asking for help, and someone on Twitter helped me find a naturalization record, and it had something that I don't think any of my immediate family ever saw, and that was a photo of her, which
Yeah.
which we didn't have many, if any, of, and yeah, it was definitely interesting to see, and in the image as well was the affidavit, and it mentioned the name Divine, Devine, which matched up with an aunt I had found about the same time, that would have been my grand aunt's aunt. So that kind of joined up another dot. And I think there were two witnesses for the affidavit. I think one was the aunt and the other one was one of her sons. So it was, and again, like I said, that filled in another gap, which I was missing, which
Was Chicago the place that she mentioned she was going to, maybe, and she never went there? No.
no, I think it was somewhere in Brooklyn that she mentioned that she was going to, but it
Okay.
was strange because like everyone had kind of said, oh, she went to Chicago, and I'm kind of going, no, she didn't. She didn't go anywhere near it. And yeah, I still don't know where the Chicago idea came from, and I may never know.
Well, that teaches us all that not all the family lores are truth.
Yeah, definitely. And obviously, for different people, over time, it may not be clear to them at first, but over time, it may uh, be clear to them. But what does genealogy mean to you?
Wow. Well, for me, it's very clear. It's first of all my and please excuse me for the use of the word my hobby. Okay, but it's more than my hobby. It's my love. It's my entertaining. It's my job, obviously, but it's the job that I will be doing, and I'm very happy to do it, and I will be doing even if I don't get paid for that. Just don't tell my boss about that. He may get a little bit advantaged. But genealogy is all. It's family. It's 24/7. It's my life. Genealogy for me is my life.
Right. And I can definitely relate to that. But obviously, as I'm a student at the moment, I obviously have to do schoolwork. And unfortunately, at the moment, I don't get much time for genealogy at all. It's only a case of if it's Christmas or Halloween, or if I have a week off, essentially, that
Mm-hmm.
I don't have exams coming up.
Well,
Would
Christmas is around the corner, so you will have a lot of time now.
yeah. Oh, I'm already planning out what I'm doing, so that I will definitely cram in some genealogy as much as possible.
You see, that's definitely an advantage that I have because I sometimes I manage to do a little bit of my own genealogy as part of the work. Because if I need to create a PowerPoint and to showcase a feature or I need to create a lecture, in most of the cases, I actually try and do it with my own family. Of course, that with DNA, it has to be with my family. I don't have any other options. But also, like when I'm talking about the in color technology or the photo technology in my heritage, I use a family photo. If I'm talking about burial records, I'm talking about my records and I need to research the new collections. So I think I'm very lucky that I'm able to do my own genealogy as part of my day-to-day work.
Definitely, and because when I started out, I liked history as a subject anyway, and I think so. Like when I started into family history, that definitely, my love of history beforehand definitely boosted my love for family history even more, because I was kind of thinking, oh, I wonder what they would have been like during this time or this period or anything really.
I think that's a common thing among genealogies. We are all uh, history enthusiastic. I actually want to do oh come on the guys that studies the ruins, archaeologist. I actually wanted to be an archaeologist. I love to go to archaeology sites or to all sites in history. Yeah, that's the common denominator probably among everybody in the genealogy industry.
Yeah, definitely. And if it's good if you sort of have a love of history, because that'll boost it even more.
That helps. Yeah.
And I think I saw one up here. Come on, work for me.
Yeah, I don't know if the people who are watching us, I see a lot of hearts floating around, and I thank you all. But if you have questions, yeah, I will be more than happy to answer.
Yeah, there was one here that I was trying to find, but it was very far up. Gonzalo says, "Oh, please tell us how you manage cases in which clients or people interested would like to obtain Spanish or Portuguese citizenship through Jewish lines, though they don't know about great grandparents."
Okay, so well, yeah, that's kind of a hot subject. I'm actually not doing research for clients. 100% of my professional life is dedicated to my heritage. But I can tell you that you should start by building a family tree with whatever you know, trying to find the places where your ancestors lived, and then try to contact local people to try to get you the records from those places. Now, I have heard this many times from many people in many places. You know, all the records are gone. There is nothing available, you know, fire, water, they move the archive, whatever. That is not true. Okay, you need to be persistent and you need to ask for the records, and you may not find a wealth of records and all the records for all your family people, but yeah, you will find little pieces that hopefully will guide you on how to find your ancestors. Now, if you're looking for a passport, nationality for another country, I will definitely recommend you to contact directly a professional that it's dedicated to that, because they have done this probably 1,000 times. They know exactly what records you need. They may even have some research done for your family or for the area where your family is coming, so it will save you also a lot of time.
I can just tell from the comments we're getting in that the person that asked that is very satisfied with what you just said. And for anyone watching, if the question is too big for the question box, just stick it in the comments. It's not a problem. Another question coming in. Where do you feel the future of genealogy databases will evolve into? As well, how do you suggest family history societies approach the digitization of their records?
Okay, so yeah, definitely the future is on digitization, making everything available through the internet. And if we need a sample, listen, I think that the last 9 months cannot be clearer, okay? People need to get access to everything from their home, from their houses, from their computers at any time. Now, eventually, and I do know that today most of the records are already created digitally, but I also know, because I have traveled, I have seen it, a lot of societies have huge cabinets with huge amount of records, and what everybody should be doing, like ASAP, as soon very as possible, is to start digitizing as a first step and indexing those as a second step. Definitely the future is going to be in front of our computers. We will get access to everything. It's going to take time, it's going to take work, but it's the only way to assure that those records are going to be usable, that people will be able to get to them, and that they will get preserved. And I know that a lot of societies have projects doing that and have volunteers trying to go over the whole archive and putting everything online and in digital. Backups, not one side, and like not one side physically and not one side on the internet. In as many places that you put your information, the better will be for everybody, for you and for the people who are accessing those records. And again, as I said, we're going to close that gap eventually. 1920 census in England, if I'm not mistaken, is about to come out. Again, digital, hopefully, and transcribed. 1950 census in the US is going to be released in a couple of years. So So those records are going to see the light very soon, and hopefully older records also. I have been in archives requesting for records, and they said, no, we don't have that, we don't have, until one day they say, you know what? Somebody went down to the basement to the very last corner on the right, and they found the record. So yes, you need to digitize that. You need to make it available to everybody.
Definitely. And you're right in the fact that digitization is the way to go, because obviously not for some people that want to trace their family history, but the records may not be online, but they may not be able to travel for certain reasons, and they still want to do it. It is definitely a helpful thing to have in your arsenal, especially if you wanted to do your research, but you can't necessarily journey to the place that you need to go to.
Yeah, definitely. And I love to see all those hearts going up on the screen. I like to know that people are enjoying and finding useful the tips and the conversation.
That's it, definitely. That's it. Everyone's enjoying it that is watching now and will watch in the future. Now, obviously, like we said at the start, more and more young people are getting into genealogy. Now, this one kind of branches into two questions, but I'll ask both anyway. So what advice could you give to a young person starting out? And I'll ask the next one after that.
Okay. Well, to the young people, okay, don't believe everything that everybody says. Just verify it by yourself and try to understand the different times that your ancestors lived in. The world was very different 10 years, 20 years, 50 years, and even 100 years ago. Like the advance that we had in the last 50 years, 100 years is incredible. You sometimes really cannot imagine how our ancestors dealt with everything that we have today. So just research, study, and try to find the real stories of those people, of those names that you are going to collect.
Definitely. That is a good point, because like I said, when it came to researching that granddad that I was saying, I was always looking in Chicago. Oh, it has to be Chicago. They said Chicago. It's nowhere else. But it was only when I got like, right, step back a little and just, try other things. And that's how I came across her in New York for few sentences. It would have been the 1940 census would have been the only one I found her in so far. But that's definitely a very valid point.
You know what, Daniel? I would add another thing. If I will not be almost sure, they will say, he doesn't know what he's saying. Patience. Patience is really necessarily when you're doing genealogy. Okay, and this generation, I don't know how patient they are.
Oh, I don't know, but obviously patience is definitely a vital element. As some days I didn't have much, but other days I had loads. Because I remember one time I got a family tree from another granddad, and there was one person I was trying to find. I kept searching and searching and searching, and I think it took me, I don't know, maybe a month to try and find him. Eventually, it was a mix-up in the surname. They spelt the surname wrong. And I don't know how they messed it up, because it very clearly said what it said on the document, but it wasn't what it said. And when I immediately found it, I just went report any errors in transcription.
Yeah,
Uh,
you click that button right away.
and yeah, for any other poor person that might be trying to find it, they might have a bit better of a chance now, hopefully. And my second question was, because I keep coming back to this, but it's a very valid topic that more and more kids and teenagers get into genealogy. And do you personally feel that there is enough places, groups, websites, forums, whatever way you want to say it, specifically adapted for kids and teens, run by kids and teens for kids and teens / young adults?
Definitely no. And I think that the problem with that is that most of the groups that you will find are managed, and I'm going to use the word grown-ups, okay? But let me be more specific. People over 40, 50, okay? And I'm 49 already, okay? We are trying to teach those young kids how to pursue their research instead of, and I'm trying to follow my own advice, giving the tools and let you, young people, use it as you consider either successful or not. I think that one of the things that we always want is to save our kids the failures. And we forget sometimes that those failures is what teach us the good things. So if I would be preventing you from failure, I will be preventing you from learning. Okay, so definitely a group like the one you have, I think it's magnificent because it's not a group for kids, it's a group by kids, and other kids can come and say, hey, this guy, he's 17, he may be only 1 or 2 years older than me. I will probably feel more comfortable bringing him with questions, asking him or asking for the guidance. And probably you have a more similar mentality and rapport with that kid, that he or she will hear you more or better than just, oh, this old guy, as my own son says every time, oh, daddy, you're old. Yeah, I'm 49 and I'm old. Come on. But that's life. I accept it. But I don't feel old. Okay. And that is why I enjoy participating with groups like yours, Daniel. And not only you, I have seen all this group of people, of young kids that you have over there. I feel empowered and invigorated by participating on your activities and watching you doing genealogy today with the different tools that you have today, that at the end of the day are very similar to the ones I use. We started this conversation mentioning the pen and paper that we all use, but I also use internet today, and I also use computers, same as you. So it's a little bit more of the same, and I really think that young people have a ton of potential to be as good genealogists like today as I or people older than me are also today. Okay, it's one of those things that definitely, like, time gets better, but there is no reason why not to master it already, like from today. Being young is not an impediment to master genealogy.
This one just okay. I have definitely one, maybe two, spanning off of that. But kind of, do you feel, because in my own personal experience, I found that because when I started out, it's not really a blog. I haven't gone near it in ages, I will admit. But kind of when I started out, my blog is a year and a half old now, as of June 18th. So when I started out on Instagram, especially, like I didn't know any like specifically young person doing this, and I will admit I did feel, a tad lonely, but kind of in the sense of I didn't have any people my own age doing this. But it was later so would be so like the founding members of the Hidden Branch, Tyler and Emily. And then so like we, became friends and we sort of like worked on this and then built and built and built. And we now have 8 members of the Hidden Branch now. We welcomed our 8th member fairly recently. So we're slowly getting bigger, and hopefully we will, bring, the idea of genealogy to kids and teens and go like, right, it's not weird to do it, because some people are like, oh, it's only older people that do it. There's no young person like kids or teens. Because especially when I started out on Twitter, I was kind of, people were kind of baffled, kind of like, really? Like you're a teenager and you're doing genealogy and you're serious about it. Like it was kind of like a sort of mystification, kind of, and we're kind of, I was kind of getting eyelids at me. Sure you're okay doing this? And yeah, I am, because I like doing it, and I've kind of become like, I've made good friends doing this, and it's kind of been kind of my little outlet that I like to go to, that I can talk to people my own age about stuff I like, and not kind of go like, oh, I don't do this, I'm not interested in this, kind of hiding away from it. And I definitely think that for some kids' mentality, that if do it, and the interest will slowly dwindle. But that kind of, and it's, oh, just trying to compose myself for a second. And so would you kind of think that it's the same mentality with some, that if no one their own age does it, they won't do it?
Yes, and I think again that you and PJ and all the others in the group are doing a wonderful job bringing genealogy to kids through social media and through other channels that up till now they were not used because the young people were not involved on that, or were not, they didn't know exactly where to advertise and what to do. So definitely, yeah. And Gonzalo, I'm reading here, is saying that yes, there are thousands of people out there, young people out there doing genealogy, and I guess that it's very good to be able to use the social media and the different channels to gather together, like virtual meetings today. It's a wonderful idea, good advantage, and interact with others and reassure them, probably same as you said and as I felt, that we're not strange people. Like there are more out there like us, and we just need to find them and to get together and to interact.
Definitely. And, you know, kind of when we started the Hidden Branch back in 2019, it's actually a year old now. So, and we've got our name out somewhat, but it's a case of trying to get it out even more. And obviously, when we started out, it was just an idea. I just texted Tyler, and he just kind of said, "Oh, I like that idea. Let's do it." And kind of I said the same to Emily, and she kind of like, "Yeah, I'd be interested." And that's how we started it. Like it was just a simple text, and
Yeah,
it was an idea that we don't regret, especially now.
good, 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 very good.
Now, obviously, you're an expert genealogist at MyHeritage, and as of October the 1st, you celebrated your 14th year with them.
Yep.
Like, what's it been like? Because obviously you've been there. You've
Almost,
been
almost the whole time. Yes. Listen, uh, it has been amazing. Being able, first of all, to do and to work or to have a job on the thing I love, first of all. And I think not only one, but both of the things that I love, computers and genealogy. That is wonderful. And I really wish that everybody could have exactly that, their dream job. And that is what MyHeritage has been for me. MyHeritage has been my family for more than 14 years already. And I came to Israel only almost 16 years ago. So probably my whole life here in Israel has been next to MyHeritage. Seeing the company growth from the inside, like we always joke at the office, I am employee number 7. Okay, today people coming into the office, they're already in the 2000s numbers. Okay, we currently have because of the Corona Lab, we have like 120 there and another 460 dedicated only to the genealogy part. And I can say that I have seen everyone coming and going from the company. Okay, we started in this very little house, peaceful village, and to this high-tech building industry area, and it's huge, and all the people, and every time we try to do a company meeting, we need a bigger space and a bigger space and a bigger space. It has been wonderful.
oh god, I don't know. That's near.
I'm
first.
here. I'm here. Yes, I'm here. I'm here. Just a glitch.
Yeah, we're gonna. Anyway,
Uh,
you were saying.
yes. No, I was saying that definitely uh, one of the one of the best things, not the only thing. Again, I have many things, good things in my heritage, is a little bit to be able to see the future. Like I know what's going to happen in the company in the next couple of months. I know the features that we're working on. I know what it's coming, and holding on that, and being able to help and suggest also, and give my inputs, and knowing that some of the features that are out there and people love and use, little details are actually part of what I have said or I have suggested. It's definitely very rewarding.
Yeah, because you actually kind of answered another one of my questions, which is, where do you see my heritage going in the future?
Well, listen, I can tell you further away from where we are now. In those 14 years, nothing has have stopped the company, and the COVID, the Corona, just give us another push and another avenue, and we just take whatever comes, and we turn it into a success, and we work very hard onto that. I can tell you that records, okay, more records, records from different places that probably no one else have researched or have gone, more technology, more intelligent technology to help people with those records to build their trees, more things on the photo section, okay, the memories of people, preserving memories, and we will keep improving. We will keep making our tools better and more easy to work, and more accessible to everybody.
Absolutely. And if anyone watching now has any questions that they'd like to ask Daniel before I wrap this up, please do so.
I'm browsing and seeing. Okay.
I'm trying to go up and not be brought back to the start. As I somehow managed it. I'm just looking here. This wasn't a question, but this is a very good point. Gonzalo said, unfortunately, we don't have many accurate sources to know how many genealogists started in a childhood, but for sure our genealogical energy, quote unquote, comes from an inside which comes from our birth, which does kind because it kind of makes you think, right, well, so
Well,
like some people say, oh, I was born to be a genealogist. That's I might have come across a bit odd there. That's where I was trying to come across from.
I can tell you, again, traveling and going to all these conferences around the world, that I have seen more and more young people dedicated to genealogy, and I'm very happy for that.
Definitely. Another one coming in. I think she's just kind of. I don't know the context, but Penny just said challenges.
I think she wants to know what challenges I found in genealogy.
Possibly. So
Well,
take that.
definitely the lack of records. I am stuck. I have a huge brick wall with my Horowitz, in Ukraine, and not being able to find the records, it is a challenge. Trying to make sense of the DNA, I have to admit, is also a challenge, especially with my background with Ashkenazi Jews and all the endogamy that the DNA will reflect. It is a good challenge as well.
And another one coming in. What is your biggest challenge in delivering records?
Probably is to be able to transcribe and to index the records accurately. I am kind of helping with a school project, also kids indexing records. And the first thing that everybody said, well, we will give them some records that are typewritten. Because if we give those kids, and we're talking about 16, 17 years old, just like you, Daniel, if we give them handwritten records, they may never figure out what the record said. Okay? I think that is not true, but it has a little bit of truth. Handwritten is always a challenge. And if you're talking about different languages, I have seen German records that are beautiful, but impossible to understand if you don't know the calligraphy that it was used. I have seen Russian and Ukrainian records written in cursive that also it's impossible to know what they're saying. So that will be the challenge, to being able to read and to transcribe accurately whatever the record says.
Definitely, because I know I have definitely seen some tweets on Twitter just kind of sort of saying, what does this say? And so with some registrars, I've come across in my own, have been very difficult to read. Like, whether they were just in a rush to do something else and they just scrolled it in and just kind of like, right, I've written it in, they'll be able to read that and then move on. And then obviously they won't fix it afterwards because that's the record that they'll send off. And to me, that it can be annoying because you're trying to go like, are you saying cloth maker or clock maker? And there's quite a difference between the two. So yeah, that is a challenge I think that still exists to this day. And PJ put in one saying, what is your favorite time period to research?
Definitely the late 40s, after the war, after people tried to get back home or decided to go someplace else, and they generated a lot of records from that movement, from looking into their other relative and try to find out what happened to them, and also probably because we are getting between 70 and 80 years after that period, so privacy issues are kind of falling down when we go towards the 100 years. So you're seeing now a lot of records and a lot of stories and a lot of memories from that not such long time ago. So, yep, after World War II, that's definitely my best time for research.
Right. Personally, I don't think I have one, but I'd say definitely as you kind of go more closer and closer to now, it will be harder to research. So I think that's all of the questions we have coming through. And if you do happen, anyone watching now or later has any more questions that they want to ask, post them on. I will post this up on my Instagram. So please comment and I will tag Daniel and he can answer them for you. So
Definitely.
I think this will be a good time to wrap things up. So thank you, Daniel, for coming on. It's been brilliant having you, and I enjoyed it. Definitely.
I enjoy it very much, Daniel, and I actually need to thank you because, again, and probably this will be the proof of my age. I never thought about having an interview on Instagram, and when you said who wants to be interviewed, I said, oh, you know what? I won. Let's do it. I have never done it. It should be fun. And let me tell you, it has been a blast. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now, obviously, this is the time when I announce. I do know for once who my next one is going to be next week, which I will announce tomorrow. So stay tuned for that, and see you all next Saturday. So, bye everyone.
Bye bye.